On today's lesson, we'll travel to the world's first national park, Yellowstone. Hi there, I'm Jeff, and I'd like to say welcome to Plain English lesson number 294. JR is the producer, and the full lesson can be found online at plainenglish.com/294. Coming up today, another installment in our occasional series of destinations in the English-speaking world. Today, I'll take you to Yellowstone National Park, America's first national park, and it is in the western state of Wyoming. This is going to be an easy one for me because this is where I just went on vacation. I spent 3 days in Yellowstone and visited some other big parks on the way to and from Yellowstone. In fact, I wrote this lesson during a rest day I took in a nearby town in Wyoming. For decades, it was a blank spot on the map of the American West, guarded on 3 sides by mountain ranges and at an altitude of between 6,000 and 8,000 feet above sea level. This was an untouched area as Americans moved west and filled out their country's interior. In the early 1800s, rumors of a beautiful landscape, boiling mud, steaming rivers, and petrified trees reached the ears of settlers in other areas, but most people didn't believe they could be true. They were all true and more. In the late 1860s, 6 decades later, privately funded explorers and the U.S. Army detailed the magnificent geography of the area now known as Yellowstone National Park. In 1871, the U.S. Congress passed a law establishing the area as a protected national park for the benefit and enjoyment of the people, the first in America's history and the first in world history. Yellowstone was created by 3 massive volcanic eruptions. One was 2 million years ago, another about 1.3 million years ago, and a third 640,000 years ago. Each eruption changed the landscape, leaving us with a rich variety of mountains, valleys, canyons, rivers, waterfalls, and hydrothermal elements. The hydrothermal elements are what make Yellowstone famous, and the most famous hydrothermal element is the geyser known as Old Faithful. In a geyser, cold water and hot compressed water mix below the surface, building up pressure in the complex plumbing beneath the Earth's surface. When the pressure is too great, water shoots out from under the Earth up into the air. The geyser known as Old Faithful has erupted about 20 times per day, every day, since the park was discovered, and probably for a long time before that. Each eruption happens 60 to 110 minutes after the previous one. An eruption lasts between 90 seconds and 5 minutes, and the hot water shoots up about 130 feet in the air. The geyser is so predictable that a ranger posts the next estimated eruption and crowds form to watch it. Other geysers in the area are less predictable. Some are bigger and some are more frequent. There are many other hydrothermal features. The most common are steam vents. They look like mini volcanoes, and steam pours out from them 24 hours a day. As you walk toward them or drive near them, it looks like a building is on fire. Instead, the earth is releasing hot water in the form of a column of steam. Mud pots are muddy ponds with gas from under the surface bubbling up, sometimes shooting mud up into the air. Thermal ponds have extremely hot water, often with their own springs or mini geysers. The minerals and bacteria combine to give them a wide range of colors, from bright blue to dark orange. These areas are a window into the complex world beneath the Earth's surface. The Earth's crust, the part of the planet that protects us from the heat deep below the surface, is very thin in these areas. The water and gas is heated by magma in the volcano below. Because of the pressure, the liquid water is far hotter than the boiling point on the surface. Half of the world's hydrothermal features are in Yellowstone National Park, 10,000 overall, and many are open today for visitors to get an up-close look. You can see the geysers erupt, smell the gas and minerals coming from the steam vents, and listen to the bubbling of the mud pots. Elsewhere, the park is both well-preserved and accessible. The roads through the park form a large figure 8. As you drive around, there are hundreds of opportunities to pull over and enjoy the park's magnificent features. Yellowstone Lake is the largest high-elevation lake in North America. The Yellowstone River carved a huge canyon. Smaller rivers form dramatic waterfalls. Buffalo and elk graze in the valleys between the mountains. Bears, wolves, and countless other animals roam the forests. The beauty of the park today is that visitors can experience as much or as little as they want. You can stay on paved roads and visit popular attractions and still see wildlife, waterfalls, canyons, and lakes. Or, with proper preparation, you can pack your tent and food and wander off into the wilderness for a multi-day camping trip. Many people choose to do something in between, combine the easy tourist sites with a little bit of light hiking or boating. Over 3 million people visit the park every year. Most make their Yellowstone trip a long car trip from home. Yellowstone is in western Wyoming, where the distances are great, but that doesn't stop people from all over the U.S. from packing up the car and visiting. I spent 3 days in the park, and I thought I saw a lot, but there is always more to discover. A large part of the park was closed when I was there. One section was closed because of fires and a mudslide. The other section was closed for construction. So if the main road is closed, then all the attractions in that part of the park are off limits. Part was closed because there was a carcass near a busy road. The carcass would attract hungry bears a little too close to popular tourist sites, so they closed the road there until the carcass was fully consumed. But still, even with 3 days, I did a mixture of easy attractions and some hikes. I got up one morning and walked a 7-mile trail around the rim of the huge Yellowstone Canyon, and I had the place to myself for the first hour or two of my hike. It was really amazing. And I'll tell you something else. This was easy. For years, I thought that this is the sort of trip I'd have to plan way in advance, do a lot of research, carry detailed maps, buy all kinds of equipment. But no, it was easy. Between some good tour guide apps on my phone and a little internet research, I was able to see everything I wanted in the park and a lot that I didn't know existed. So if you've ever wanted to visit Yellowstone, I say do it. Don't be intimidated by it. Yes, you have to get there. That's not easy. But if you can get there, then the rest is easy by comparison. There are 5 entrances to the park, and there's a small town at each entrance with hotels and services and restaurants. Don't expect luxury and a huge variety, but there are plenty of places to stay and get food and supplies nearby. Today's expression is an easy one, but it's one you need to know. The phrase is pull over. What does it mean to pull over? It means to drive to the side of the road and come to a stop, or to make someone else do that. There are many ways to enjoy Yellowstone National Park. If you want, you can get off the main roads and explore the back country. But that might not be your style. Maybe you'd rather see some attractions close to the road. If that's the case, you're in luck. There are so many places to pull over and enjoy attractions or good views. When you pull over, you just stop on the side of the road. At Yellowstone, there are a lot of areas where the roadway is just a bit wider than normal. There is only enough space for 2 or 3 cars to pull over and see a waterfall or an attraction. In other cases, you might find a larger parking lot. You can use pull over with either one. The important thing with pull over is that you're moving to the side of the road and you're continuing your journey later. So this is not a term that you use when you're talking about your destination. So here are a few more examples. I pulled over to get some gas. That means you stopped along the way to get gas. I got an important phone call, so I pulled over to take it. I didn't want to talk while driving. You just move to the side of the road and stop. I pulled over to let the ambulance pass. They were in a hurry, and I didn't want to be in the way, so I pulled over to let the ambulance go by. If you have mechanical trouble in your car, you should pull over as soon as it is safe to do so. In fact, before I took my long car trip to Yellowstone, I had my car checked out by a mechanic. Soon after leaving the shop, I noticed a problem. I pulled over immediately and had the repair shop come look at it. There is another way to use pull over. When a police car makes you stop on the side of the road, we say that the police officer pulled you over. Have you ever been pulled over by the police? Have you ever been driving and seen those flashing lights behind you? It's not a fun feeling, let me tell you. I was pulled over about 2 years ago. The police use radar guns to measure your speed. If you're going too fast, they'll pull you over and give you a ticket. The officer that pulled me over must have been in a good mood. He didn't give me a ticket, but instead gave me a verbal warning. During my recent trip to Yellowstone, I kept thinking how fortunate we are that our nation's early leaders protected this area. At the time, there was no such thing as a national park, and the ethics of Western exploration were, shall we say, not enlightened. People used the land for their immediate aims without thinking of the future. Almost as soon as the park was discovered, the U.S. Army came in to administer and protect the area, and to this day, it has been preserved for anyone to come see for a modest entrance fee. In these days of dysfunctional and divisive politics, it's nice to look back on a truly amazing accomplishment by the leaders of the day. So, with that in mind, here is a quote from a former U.S. President, Theodore Roosevelt, who played a large part in the protection of public land and the establishment of our many national parks. Here's what he said. "We have fallen heirs to the most glorious heritage a people ever received, and each one must do his part if we wish to show that the nation is worthy of its good fortune." We have fallen heirs, meaning we have inherited this great public land, and, he said, we must all do our part to be worthy of such good fortune. I agree. Well, that's all for today. I had such a nice time visiting Yellowstone, so I had to share it with all of you. If you have any interest in visiting, I say do it. Now, coming up on Thursday, we'll talk about what it's like to stay in a hotel in the age of COVID. And for those of you who are Plain English Plus members, I'll release a bonus episode in your podcast feed about what I did at Yellowstone. If you're a Plus member, you can find that right in the same place you listen to the fast version, or via a link in this point in the main transcript. I'll also post a link in the forums. So there's no transcript, there's no website for this one, just a little bonus content for you since I had so much that I couldn't fit into today's lesson. Now, if you're not yet a member of Plain English Plus, you can join very easily by visiting plainenglish.com/plus, Plus. Plus members get access to a fast version of the program, interactive forums, video lessons, courses, and so much more. You can join by visiting plainenglish.com/plus, plainenglish.com/plus.